Disease of love we almost break until you find me. Disease of time we almost say until I see your eyes. Disease of love we almost break until you find me. Disease of love, 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 love.
Shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with a heavy beat. Hit me with that future sound. It's time to let go, we're not going home. This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down. Feel the music on the stereo. Oh, oh. As we let the rhythm take control. We're gonna dance like we don't care. Keep on popping bottles like we're millionaires. Yeah, we're just getting started, living for the weekend. Shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with a heavy beat. Hit me with that future sound. It's time to let go, we're not going home. This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down. This is where the beat goes down. Let's make this night unforgettable. Oh, oh. Making memories we won't recall. One more song is never enough. We ain't gonna stop when the sun comes up. Put the night on replay, 'cause we never wanna lose this rush. Oh no. Shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with a heavy beat. Hit me with that future
new members, welcome to our Platinum Partners. My name is Tad Schinke, and you are here for the 6th session of the RPM training. Now remember, state is everything. State is everything. So on the count of 3, we're going to go crazy. We're going to go crazy. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Looking good, looking good. Whoa. Yes. Get 3 virtual high fives, and grab a seat. Got a little delay here on my my internet. The joys of living in the middle of no place. All right. Anyway, state really is everything. And let's remind each other of the rules of the game. And here's the deal. If this is your first time going through this RPM training, you're in exactly the right place, because I am going to be going through this in detail to cover all the highlights, everything we've covered in the 6 sessions. So fasten your seatbelts. Rules of the game. Number 1, state is everything. It truly is. When you are in a great state, everything is better. Even unpleasant situations are better when you're in a great state. It doesn't mean that they're going to be, not unpleasant at times. It just means that you're going to be better off being in a great state. So manage your state always, but particularly today during our training. 2, you give this training your total focus today. Give this training your total focus today. Shut your door of your office, turn off the sound on your phone, get rid of your phone so that you can really focus on what we're going to be doing here today. Number 3, take notes. Take notes like you're going to teach this to others, because you're going to want to teach this to anybody and everybody that you care about. And finally, last but not least, you must follow through. You must follow through. Well, today we are going to talk about the power of RPM projects. And it's really easy, and it's fun, and it's powerful, and you are going to be an expert by the time we get done today. And all an RPM project is just a series of RPM blocks. We're going to talk about it in greater detail, but at the highest chunk, that's all it is. Number 2, we're going to talk about power strategies. Given that this is the 6th and final session of this special RPM training that Tony put together for you members of the Inner Circle, we want to give you some inside tips, what I often refer to as sneaky trainer tricks, to help you get the most out of your RPM experience. And number 3, we want to progress and plan for your continued momentum. Because I know people have been working on this now for 6 months. And some of you have joined along the way, but everybody, you've been blowing up the chat box in the Facebook group, and it has been amazing to see the progress that you've made in a relatively short period of time. And we want to lock that in. And it's not listed on the slide, but we're going to do a comprehensive review. We're going to do a comprehensive review of everything that we've covered. Now, one of the things that we've been doing every time is focusing on some celebrations. And I want to take just a second to talk about the importance of celebrations, because they're vitally important. You must notice what you're doing well, because nothing builds success like building on success. Pay attention to what you're doing that's going great, because that builds momentum, and it builds muscle, and it builds power and strength for you to keep going and continuing to implement RPM in your life. Let's take a look at some of the things you put in the Facebook group. Some really great stuff. We've got Sari. she says yes or he. I'm not sure if it's a guy or a gal. They say, yes, RPM is a planning tool from Tony, but it is more a wish come true planning rather than only day planning. Couldn't agree with you more, sorry. Yeah. And then we have something from Vicky. It all came together for me in this last session when I watched the replay, as you got to practice it. A vitally important thing to note. Thank you, Vicky. You got to do it. And then she covered the five, key steps: capture, create RPM blocks, commit and schedule, complete and achieve, and last but not least, celebrate. And then we've got Josette. Yeah, give it up for Vicky. And then we've got Josette, who said, thanks for the class on Thursday. I did an RPM block and I saw and felt my future. It was fantastic. I'm going to have to catch up on the other classes from this year. Hashtag RPM has me excited and moving. And this is a great reminder because all of these 6 sessions are in your portal for the Inner Circle. You can access them along with the workbooks, which are phenomenal. You can access them at any time to continue to build the muscles that you need to build to continue on this journey. And Debbie said, blocking time has been working out so well for me is that it's allowed me to accomplish so much. Great reminder. Thank you, Debbie, because you got to schedule it. Yes, give it up for Debbie. Excellent. And then last but not least, a comment from Sandra. It's a great system. I'm so happy to have found RPM. I'm so happy to have found RPM. Let's give it up for her as well. Let's give it up for all of our folks. Yes. Wonderful. Well, we're now going to do a quick review. Now, many of you may know that I am a big football fan, American football, for those of you that live in other parts of the world, American football. In fact, I'm one of the owners of the Green Bay Packers. And on Monday Night Football, Chris Berman, one of the announcers, used to do the fastest 3 minutes in football because he would review all of the games from the Sunday right before. And I'm going to give you the fastest 10 minutes in RPM because we're going to review everything that we've covered so far. So you want to fasten your seatbelt because we're going to go zipping along. But let's start with one of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes. Bruce, and this came out when Tony interviewed him back in the days when he was doing these power talks. Bruce said, knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. We must do. And that's a great start for RPM. And at the highest level, what is RPM? RPM is a system of thinking. It's a way to maximize your results in a minimum amount of time and get the maximum, most fulfillment possible. If you have embraced this system of thinking, this RPM system of thinking, raise your right hand and say yes. Raise your right hand and say yes. Excellent. Excellent. And now let's create an RPM block. Grab a piece of paper. If you got your your workbook, there's blank ones in there, but just do this with me. It's super simple. And you can grab an envelope. You can write it on a napkin, wherever you happen to be. Go ahead and just create a quick RPM block. The first place we always start, result. Result, and it's got to be smart, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-defined. The more specific, the better. And you want to have a specific date by September 15, 2022, because there's something about a specific date that goes into your brain in a different way. Now, when you're creating your RPM block, go ahead, jot down whatever's a result that's on your mind right now. whatever is a result that's on your mind right now. And the second thing we do when we're creating an RPM block is to create the purpose. To create the purpose. And it's the emotional juice. And the way I encourage you to complete your RPM blocks, once you have your result, see yourself having accomplished it. So I just threw out a date of September 15th. And let's say the goal was to gain 12 pounds of lightness, or some people would say lose 12 pounds by September 15th of 2022. See yourself on September 15th having done it, having made it a reality. And then from that place, look and see how great it feels and ask yourself 3 questions for the purpose. How does this make me feel that I've accomplished it? Again, seeing yourself having accomplished it. Number 2, what does it mean to me that I've accomplished this? And last but not least, who have I become in the process of having accomplished this? We're doing this all from a fully associated place of seeing yourself having completed whatever the result is that you came up with. And then the next thing is your massive action plan. Again, from that fully associated place, seeing yourself having accomplished whatever it was you set out to accomplish. In fact, maybe even surpassing the result that you'd set. Brainstorm. What are the things you did or thought about doing that got you to that place of accomplishing that result? What are the things you did or thought about doing that got you to that place? And just brainstorm whatever comes to mind. Things you did, things you thought about doing. And we're not evaluating right now. Just brainstorm whatever comes to mind. And then there's a few other things that we do when we took our RPM blocks to the next level. The first thing, you see that column with the P, that's for priority. You number those results, whatever the order is that you think you would naturally complete them in. You number them. And then one of the really powerful aspects of RPM is to apply the Pareto principle, that 80% of the value is going to come from 20% of the actions. And what you want to do is to look at these action items that you brainstormed and select 2, maybe 3 at most, and put an asterisk by it. Asterisk, it's a little, star symbol. Put an asterisk by it, because those are your must items. Those are the things that, if I wasn't able to do all the things that I thought about here are the 2 or 3 that are absolutely musts. Then you see the column with a D on it. That's duration. And just come up with your estimate. This is not a science. It does not have to be exact. Just get yourself into the ballpark. This first item that I have here is going to take me an hour a week. The second item is going to take me 15 minutes. The third item is going to take me a half an hour. Whatever the case might be, go ahead and list all of those times. Then you're going to want to add up the total time for all of your actions and the total must time, just the time for those items that you asterisk, that you said are absolute musts. And this is another one of the great powers of RPM, because you will see when you do this, and many of you I know have already been doing it, what you have come to realize is that you can have an RPM block that all the actions might take 8.5 hours, but your must items might only take an hour and 45 minutes. And instead of having to, be thinking about, where am I going to get 8.5 hours? You just have to schedule in an hour and 45 minutes. That's the duration. And then the leverage column is the L. Who else can you get to help? Who else can you get to help to complete this RPM? And get creative. Tony says it all the time. It's never a lack of resources. It's only a lack of resourcefulness. It's only a lack of resourcefulness. And then we talked about the 5 master steps of planning. The 5 master steps of planning. Number 1, capture. Number 2, create. Number 3, commit and schedule. Number 4, complete and achieve. And last but not least, In fact, last and perhaps most important, celebrate. Celebrate your success. Celebrate your success. Let's go ahead and quickly take a review and quick look at each of these steps. Step number one is capture and chunk. And, this is where you just dump everything out of your head, the calls that you need to make, the people that you need to go see, the things you need to follow up on, the tasks that you want to make sure get done, all of these things that are bouncing around inside your noggin, get them down on a piece of paper. And then you're going to chunk them. And chunking is just a fancy term for taking lots of things and making it into a smaller number of things. It's that simple. And if you see on this example, there's some things that have been highlighted in blue that are all related to a similar outcome. All right. And then from there, you can go ahead and go on to step two, which is to create your RPM block. And remember the 3 questions of RPM at the highest level. The result. What's the result I'm after? The purpose. Why is this an absolute must? Why is this an absolute must? And 3, what is my massive action plan? What are the actions I need to take that are going to get me the result that I'm after? And here's a sample RPM from that capture that we had, and it's all about getting a report done. And you got all these items here that are about getting the report done. So we took, 6 different things and grouped them together to one result, taking many things and boiling them down into fewer things. Step number 3, commit and schedule. Commit and schedule. And this is a piece that so many people forget. You can create the most beautiful RPM block ever. But if you don't put it on your calendar, if you don't schedule it, it's not real. It's not going to happen. You must commit. And this is about really committing, saying, this is an absolute commitment. I'm resolved that I'm going to complete this RPM block and I'm going to get these tasks done. That's step number 3. Let's talk about block time and white space. This is really just blocking time, as we just said, putting it on your calendar. I'm going to work on my physical RPM from 1 to 2 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you put it on your calendar. This idea of white space can be worth the entire cost of admission, if you will, because it can be so powerful. What many people do when they start planning is they overschedule themselves. They fill every single item, line on their calendar up, and there's no room to handle the inevitable things that come up. You've got to remember to keep the important things on your calendar. Make your priorities important as everyone else's priorities. It's vitally important. It's really one of the foundations of RPM, is to focus on what's most important to you. Because what happens to most people is they get focused on other people's priorities by default. Step number 4, complete and achieve. Complete and achieve. You got to follow through. You absolutely must follow through. And is it possible that you scheduled that workout on Monday from 1 to 2 o'clock and something comes up? You get a call from your child's school that says, hey, they just fell off the swing and they messed up their ankle. They need to go to the doctor. Well, are you going to go and take them to the doctor? All you got to do, don't beat yourself up. 1, that's why you've left some white space on your calendar so you can reschedule it. But 2, handle it like you would handle any other important appointment that you had. If you had a doctor's appointment, then you would call the doctor and say, hey, I got to take my kid to the emergency room. I need to reschedule. And then you would put it on your calendar again. Vitally important, reschedule. And the other thing that sometimes happens to people is they get, they've got so many things going on in their life, that they lose focus on what the result was. And this is another one of the many, many benefits that RPM brings to the table, is that it is an absolute surefire way to get yourself refocused. If you forget what you got going on for your RPM, just stay focused by pulling out your RPM block, reconnecting with the result, reconnecting with the purpose. Why is this an absolute must for you? And then the actions, and boom, like that, you are refocused. And last but not least, and we got to celebrate. We've got to celebrate. You got to celebrate. And you want to, every day you want to celebrate. After every completed thing you have put on your schedule, celebrate. Notice the things that you're doing well. Notice the things that you're doing well. It's vitally important. As I said earlier, nothing builds success like building on success. And we get what we focus on. And for many of us, I had this challenge earlier in my time with Tony, albeit nearly 30 years ago now, but it's easy for us to get caught up in the day-to-day. It's easy for us to get focused, particularly for those of us that are, hard charging, want to get better, want to implement, constant and never-ending improvement. It's easy to lose sight and forget to celebrate. We don't even notice the celebrations. Why? It's a thing that you want to get in the habit of doing every day, at least once at the end of every day, and then again at the end of every week. You got to celebrate. All right? And then we talked about the weekly RPM planning. Simple 4 steps, and it's designed to help you stay focused on what's most important to you. It's a way to manage your entire life once a week. Once a week. And you have to schedule and commit and resolve to doing it. As Bruce Lee said, just having good intentions, thinking about it is not going to do it. You must follow through and do it. And Tony suggests, Friday afternoon for many people is a good time because you just finished up the week, or Sunday morning, Sunday midday, so that you've got, Sunday night, you're all ready to go for your new week. You can spend it with your family, with your friends, whatever's important to you. And the weekly planning process. Number one, connect to what's most important to you. Starts with your driving force, your ultimate purpose, your ultimate vision. What is it that's most important to you? Number two, you focus on your categories of improvement and your magnificent sevens. You notice this is a top-down process. We start at the highest level, your driving force. What are you about? What's most important to you? Who are you at your core? Your ultimate vision, your ultimate purpose. Then we go on to your categories of improvement, the big chunks of your life that are important, your physical category of improvement, your relationship category of improvement, so on and so forth. Number three, and while you're doing number two, you're looking through them and you're capturing on a piece of paper things that you want to get accomplished that week, the week that you're doing this planning for. Number three, use RPM to create an outstanding week. We've just been through those 5 steps. We're not going to go through them again right now because you know them. All right? You know them. And number 4, you've got to set up your life to win. Schedule your musts and anticipate challenges. This is where that white space is going to come in vitally important. And keep in mind that less is more, particularly when you're just getting started. You want to have your 3 to 5 to thrive for the week. Keep the number of RPM blocks. As you're building that muscle, keep the number of RPM blocks down to a minimum. Then we talked about the feedback process, the feedback model. At the highest chunk level, you start by acknowledging 1 or 2 specific things that somebody has done that's great. And you can use the feedback model with yourself. Acknowledge 1 or 2 things that you've done that are great. And you want to be specific. Yes, you want to celebrate what you've done that's great, for sure. And then you want to look at what are one or two things that you could do potentially that might make whatever you were doing get an even better result. Get an even better result. But just one or two, not 27. One or two things that you could do that you might get a better result. And then you always, always, always want to end on what's great so that you feel that sense of accomplishment as you finish up giving yourself feedback or giving others feedback. Let's take a look at an RPM block that somebody submitted and just quickly apply this feedback model. Well, to start with, one thing that's great is the purpose statement. There's lots of emotional juice here. There's lots of emotional juice, and this person captured their role that is most impactful to them in this RPM block. If I were to come up with a kanai, I might have two. One, you put a box around the entire RPM block because it's a visual chunking device. And the second kanai would be to maybe shorten up the result statement. There's so many words there. You want to have your result statement as clear and succinct as possible. You want to be specific, and you don't want it to go on too long because your mind isn't going to be able to remember it, and you're going to get yourself confused potentially. It could easily end right after the Date with Destiny, to prepare, attend, and implement what I learned at Date with Destiny, period. And some of the other stuff could be actually part of the purpose. And the other thing that could be a kanai would be a specific date. By December 31st, not just December of 2022. And then the other thing that's great is the massive action plan column, that these items that this person put together. All right. Those are some really great items. They're simple, they're easy to understand, and they're one action per item. Very nicely done on this RPM block. Now, you remember that state is everything. State is everything. And we want to just do a quick review of your triad. Now, for those of you that this is your first session, you can just play along because it's a super simple tool. It's a recipe to recreate any state or feeling or emotion that you've ever experienced or that anybody else has ever experienced. It's really that simple. It's just a recipe. It's just a recipe. And we're going to actually step into what I've been referring to as your ultimate triad or your best self triad. And we're doing this, one, because it's a powerful tool to use in every aspect of your life, but it's particularly powerful to use this when you get ready to do your RPM planning. And there's three components. There's physiology, how you're using your body. There's focus and beliefs. What are you focusing on? What do you believe about your abilities, your capabilities, how you break through barriers? And the last and third component is your language. All right. For those of you that have already done this, just use that recipe. For those that you haven't, just follow along, feel this. I'll be giving you instructions, and you'll get a chance to either exercise your existing ultimate best self triad, or you get a chance to create a new one. Let's go ahead and close your eyes. And see yourself stepping into your ultimate best self triad. Or see yourself stepping into who you are when you're at your absolute best. Who you are when you're at your absolute best. Stand the way you stand then. Breathe the way you breathe then. Picture in your mind's eye whatever you see then. Hear whatever you're hearing then. Notice how you're standing. Feel that best self. Feel you showing up at your absolute best, connecting with who you are at your core. Feel how powerful that is. Feel how grounded that is. That's it. That's it. Intensify those feelings and notice, where's your head position? How are you standing? Is your weight evenly distributed? What are you focused on? What are you focused on right now? Seeing your best future, seeing your best self, perhaps. What are some of your beliefs about your ability to break through barriers? Nothing stops me. Nothing stops me. About your ability to handle obstacles. About your belief in yourself, your ability to do whatever it takes. Hear yourself. Hear some of these beliefs that you just have, that you know when you're at your absolute best, they're part of you. That's it. That's it. And what are you focused on? What are you focused on? Focused on your bright future, focused on what's possible, focused on the impact that you're going to have in the world, whatever it is. Feel it, step into it, own it. And last but not least, what's some language that you use? I rock. I kick ass. Nothing stops me. I'm invincible. I'm unstoppable. Whatever it is, intensify it right now. Feel these feelings in your body even more than you've ever felt them in your entire life. That's it. That's it. That's it. And on the count of 3, we are going to celebrate like crazy. We're going to celebrate your best self. We're going to celebrate your best self. And here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Celebrate. Celebrate. Yes. Celebrate. Celebrate. Yes. Go crazy. Yes. Yes. Go crazy. All right, here we go. Here we go. Yes. 2 virtual high fives. Grab a seat, feeling phenomenal. Grab a seat, feeling phenomenal. RPM projects. As I said, it is so much fun and it's so easy because you have all the building blocks already to create an RPM project. Because all an RPM project is a fancy RPM block with a series of related RPM blocks. And it all starts with actions. When we just have a few actions, 3 to 5, 3 to 8 actions, that is going to create an RPM block. When we have a bunch of different results that are all related to a big project, that is going to be a project RPM. So you're going to have a high level RPM, and then you're going to have individual RPM blocks for each one of those results. And each one of those results is just the RPM blocks that you've been creating. And we got an example that we're going to go over with you in a minute to make this crystal clear. The great news is you, yes, you, each and every one of you, already know how to do this. Now, on the left-hand side of this next slide, you'll see there are weekly or daily RPM plans. And these are things that you're used to. You start with the result, you got a purpose, and you've got a mass and action plan. And each one of those results is different. You've got 3, 4, 5 for a week, and each of those results is different. That's why you've got different RPM blocks, either for your weekly plan or your daily plan. Now, if you look at the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see an RPM project plan. And here is the only difference of the high-level RPM block. Instead of referring to it as just the result, we refer to it as the ultimate result. We refer to it as the ultimate result because it's a bigger picture result and typically has a longer time frame. Remember when we were talking about RPM blocks, I said 30 days or less. And when you're doing your weekly planning, ideally, there's things that you can accomplish during that week. So that's one difference, the ultimate result. The second difference, not surprisingly, is you have an ultimate purpose. And again, it's just a higher level purpose that encompasses this bigger project. And we still do the same order. What's your ultimate result for this project? What's your ultimate purpose for this project? And what are the key results? Instead of the massive action plan column, it's called key results. And these are the key results that are going to make up this bigger result. You've got this high level result, and you've got 4, 5, 6, 8 key results. And for each of those key results, you're going to create the RPM block. All right. So as you see it right here, the ultimate result in the middle, that's where we always start. You know the process. This is super easy. We're just applying what you already know to a bigger chunk of things. Next is the ultimate purpose. We're still going to use those same questions. You're still going to see yourself having accomplished the results. You're doing this from a fully associated place. And then you come up with what are the key results that you're going to then build into individual RPM blocks. All right. Well, let's take what we call sometimes a table of contents for our RPM project. You'll notice the ultimate result here is to produce an extraordinary level of energy and vitality that results in a 227-pound trainer who can accomplish anything by March 31st of 2023. That's the ultimate result. And now that we have this specific example, if you can see how this is a bigger project, raise your right hand and you know the deal, say yes. Excellent. So that's your ultimate result, the big result for the project. Now we go on and we create the ultimate purpose. Why is this a must for you? And we do it from that fully associated place. We're doing an RPM block. It's just got some fancy headings on the columns. That's your ultimate purpose. And then we get to the key results. And the key results are all of the results that are necessary to accomplish this bigger RPM project. And you'll see, we got determine current physical condition, begin a detox program, create a dietary lifestyle and strategy, create a triad of absolute certainty, create an exercise program. Now, for those of you that are paying close attention, and I know you all are, you've already noticed what's unique about these key results. In a normal, regular, weekly or daily RPM block, these massive action plan items are one single action item. That's a key component of a daily or weekly or even a monthly RPM. Covers one result, and each of the action items are one single action, a specific action. But here you'll see that each of these is clearly going to be a series of action items, which is why they are going to become these RPM blocks. Now you'll see this example here. We've taken the action or the key result number 1, and it's there in yellow, and we've taken that key result and we've moved it over to the right-hand side where we're now creating an RPM for that result, And again, you know how to do this. It's that simple. You take one of the key results and you create RPM blocks for each one of them. The second one there is the number 2, the result number 2. It's in orange. We brought that one over. We, made the result a little bit more specific, put a specific date on it, filled out the purpose, and now create a massive action plan column of those actions that are going to get you that result. And these series, now you've got 2 of the key results RPM blocks built out. You just keep building them out until you've got all the key results covered. All right. Well, I know it's hard to believe, but you, yes, you are now an expert at RPM project planning. So give yourselves a huge round of applause and celebrate your greatness. Come on, celebrate your greatness. You got this. Yeah. While you're celebrating your greatness, grab some water. Take a deep drink of water. If you now recognize that you are an RPM project expert, raise your right hand, and you know the deal. Say yes. Say yes. Fantastic. Well, we're now going to talk about a checklist to help you with the 5 master steps. And this is actually in your manual on page 19. And it's a checklist to really help you take your RPM planning to the next level. That's really all it is. And these are some tools. Given that this is the 6th session of the RPM training, we wanted to give you some tools to be able to utilize this tool, this powerful system of thinking to the absolute best that you're able to do. Let's just take a quick run through the checklist for the 5 master steps of planning. Step 1, capture. Have you dumped everything out of your brain? Have you gotten everything that's bouncing around in there? Because that's what frequently causes us to be overwhelmed, all right? You want to get it all out of your head. So actions that you have bouncing around in there, people that you need to meet, tasks you need to accomplish, errands you need to run, whatever it is, get it out of your head and get it onto your capture list. Have you gotten all of it out of your brain and onto your capture list? The second step is obviously to create your RPM plan. And here we want to, 1, make sure, is your result SMART? Is it specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-defined? Have you put a circle around your result? Because it's a bullseye. Do you have a date of it? And if there's multiple results, you've got a project plan. Just as a remember, as we went through it, if there's got a series of results that are associated with this, create that higher level ultimate result, and then put those results in the result column. What was, for a regular RPM block is your massive action plan column. Secondly, your purpose. It's got to be juicy. It's got to be juicy. The more emotional juice, the better. Again, seeing yourself having accomplished the result. It's vitally important. You want to, what we say, future pace. See yourself in the future having gotten that result. And then from that place, ask yourself those questions. How does this make me feel? What does it mean to me? Who have I become in the process? You want to capture as much emotional juice as you possibly can. And then if you've got one of your roles from your categories of improvement, it's always nice to put a specific role in there, because that can really bring it home and give you even more juice. And then we've got the massive action plan column for your basic RPM block. Each item of your massive action plan column needs to be a specific separate action. If any of those have multiple actions to them, you're probably looking at a project. So you want to go back and do your project planning. And then you want to make sure when you finish your RPM block, put a circle around your result, put a box around the whole RPM block. You want to make sure that you leave some extra lines in your massive action plan column, because these are living documents. You may, as you continue get started working on it, you may think of some other actions that were actually even better than the ones that you came up with. And that's why you want to leave a few extra lines there in your massive action plan column. And then if you're doing this, on a worksheet that's in the workbook, there's just a whole page is available for you to make RPM blocks. Leave a few lines, at least one, but leave a couple of lines between your RPM blocks. Again, because it is a visual chunking device. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to go back to that RPM block that you just created. If this was the first time you've been to this training, that you just created at the beginning of this session. And for those of you that have been going through this training, you've got lots of RPM blocks. Go back and select one of those RPM blocks and apply this checklist, the step 2 checklist to create your RPM master plan and improve what you got. And notice where you're doing great and celebrate your successes. Wow, I got a really specific result here. I'm kicking butt and taking names. It's okay to acknowledge your greatness. In fact, it's not just okay, it's absolutely the right thing to do. We'll give you just a couple of minutes. Either take a look at that RPM block you created at the beginning of this session. Maybe it was on the back of an envelope. I don't know. And those of you who've been going through the training, select 1 or 2 of your RPM blocks. Apply this checklist. Put a big smile on your face. Have fun. You have got this.
Truck rails down the avenue, there's broken glass, a missing pew at church. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe time's too strong. Are we falling further? Are the lights that take us home when everyone is gone? Are we breaking title to ask the question why? We live and then we die. I think I'm fine. Maybe I'll write you from the other side. He was young when mom got cancer. Here life comes on Dasher Dancer. Raised up his little sister on his own. He brushed her hair and watched her grow. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe time's not that strong. Are we falling further?
Remember to breathe and put a big smile on your face. Acknowledge your greatness as you do this. You got another minute or so. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Maybe I'll write you from the other side. I'm just gonna take it slowly. I'm just gonna live one day at a time. I hope you feel you truly know me. If something comes to take me in the night, are we falling further? Are the lights to take us home when everyone is gone? We break it title to ask the question why. We live and then we die. I think I'm fine. Maybe I'll write you from the other side.
Thirty seconds to wrap this up. You're doing great. What did you do that was great? What did you do that was great in creating your RPM block? Again, this is on page 19 of your workbook. You don't need your workbook now, but just know that you have it. You have this list. Go ahead and wrap that up. Go ahead and wrap that up. Give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause for the outstanding job you've done with your RPM blocks. Yeah, even if this is your first time, give yourself a huge round of applause. Come on, this is for you, people. It's okay. I see you, Joseph. Way to go. Well, let's continue on with the checklist for the 5 master steps of planning. We did the first 2 steps. Now, the third step, as a reminder, is commit and schedule. Commit and schedule. The checklist here is pretty straightforward. Put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. Set a specific time to work on the key results that you have for your week. Put it on your calendar. You must do this. So many people, they forget to do this. And having done an RPM block, you're going to enhance dramatically the likelihood that you're going to complete it, but you will have certainty, absolute certainty, when you put it on your calendar. Now, keep in mind, it's another helpful hint. If you've got, let's say there's something that has to happen, it's a meeting that is part of this RPM block that you have to have, and that meeting has to happen on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Make sure you put things on your schedule that have specific times associated with them. And then you can work around those things. You want to make sure you get anything that has a specific time. And oftentimes you'll have RPM blocks. There are no specific times that you have to do things. But if there is, you want to make sure you schedule those things first. Step number 4, complete and achieve. Complete and achieve. And the checklist here is similar. Follow through. Follow through. Just do it. Just do it. You got to follow through. Best laid plans don't get results. Following through, taking action gets results. And as a reminder, if something comes up and you aren't able to keep the appointment that you made with yourself, reschedule it. Reschedule it. You don't need to beat yourself up. Just reschedule it. Make sure if you had something on your calendar and it didn't get done in that time frame, like a doctor's appointment. Oh, I need to reschedule it. It was down for 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Something came up. Now I'm going to put it in at 4:30 on Wednesday, or whatever the case might be. Reschedule it. And remember, you can use your RPM block to refocus you. Again, one of the many powerful, reasons to use RPM, it's a great way to stay focused. And I know many of you that are part of the Inner Circle and part of the Platinum Partnership. I know you're busy people. You've got lots of stuff going on. You want to make sure that you are staying on target. And if something comes up, just reschedule it. It's as long as you reschedule, it's totally okay. If you don't reschedule it, it's a big problem. All right? So remember to reschedule it. Number 5, celebrate. Celebrate. I cannot overemphasize the importance of celebrating. I said it before. We want to seek opportunities to repeat things, as Tony says. Repetition's the mother of skill, and celebration is key. Celebration is key. Yes, celebration is key. Celebrate your success. Start to train your mind to look for your successes. Train your mind to look for successes. Now we want to take a look at scheduling time for your RPM updates. As I said, this is a top-down system. And those of you that have been through all 6 sessions, kudos and congratulations to you. You've built a phenomenal foundation. No matter where you joined, you still built a phenomenal foundation, even if you just joined today. And remember, all of these sessions are in your portal. You can go back, you can watch those that you missed, re-listen to some of them if you've got questions. And we want to just let you know that there's some things that you want to make sure you schedule as part of your RPM planning process. And we want to start with some things that you want to do annually. Things that you want to do annually. You want to review your driving force. You want to review and update your ultimate vision, your ultimate purpose. You want to make sure that you are, updating that once a year. Once a year. I encourage you to not be, some people, they want to revise and rewrite everything every month. Now hear me, if you've written your driving force and what you're about and who you are at your core and put together your ultimate vision and put together your ultimate purpose, and you think of some additional things that you want to add, for sure, go back and add them. Add them. These are living documents. What I'm saying is don't do a complete review of everything every month. This is an annual process. Do this annually. And then on a quarterly basis, as you see here on the slide, you want to review your categories of improvement and you want to review your projects. Where are you on track and where are you not completely on track? And since we've been talking about the importance of scheduling during all 6 of these sessions, take 2 minutes. And it's probably going to be less than 2 minutes, 2 minutes to schedule your annual review. And here's the deal, just put it on your calendar. Just put it on your calendar a year from now, August 15th of 2023, August 1st. I don't care what the date is, but put it on your calendar. And just as a quick sidebar, I work with a lot of really successful people. I'm busy, they're busy. And we're talking about doing our next session. And we always make sure we put it on the calendar, even though lots of times we have to reschedule it. Something changes on my end, something changes on their end. But by having it on the calendar, it's like a stake that's been pounded in the ground that we know, hey, if we can't make it then, we need to reschedule. Select a date for your annual review and for your quarterly reviews. The quarterly reviews are every 3 months. Take a minute and 37 seconds, actually, to go ahead and put those on your calendar right now. And if you don't have your calendar, write down some dates and get them on your calendar when this training is over. Go. This is fun. Come on, people. Go ahead and wrap that up. You got your annual review date. You've got your quarterly review dates. Give yourself a round of applause. Come on, it's okay. You can acknowledge your greatness. It's all right. Good thing. Good thing. That's it, Katya. Yeah, celebrate your greatness. Now, there's also things to do monthly, weekly, daily. I'm not going to go through those right now, but you got them in your workbook on page 21. You've got them in your workbook on page 21. Now, let's talk about some power strategies. And these were talking about some of the sneaky trainer tricks, things that, we've learned working with thousands of people over time, things that Tony has shared with us along the way. The first one is the 4 levels of management. The 4 levels of management. And we go from the bottom up. We've got actions, and it's one specific task. And when we have 3, 4, 5, 6 specific actions, they're typically going to be associated to one result. And so they make up an RPM block. All right. And it's an RPM block because it requires more than just one action. And as we just got through talking about, if you've got multiple results that make up this bigger result, you've got a project. And in no time at all, you became a RPM project expert because it just built on your understanding of RPM already. And then from there up to the next level is your categories of improvement. And these are those big chunks of your life, your finances, your relationships, your physical body, whatever they are, but that's the next level. And because those are typically going to be a number of projects over the course of a year, or certainly over the course of your life. Those are the 4 levels of management. Now, I often get questions, what are some general rules of thumb for people as they're doing RPM blocks? What are some general rules of thumb? And these are just general. These are just general. These are not like a checklist. If you got to have this many, results for a project, or this many RPM blocks for your weekly planning. These are just to get your mind around things. All right. Number 1, for your daily plans, typically your daily plans have 6 to 8 RPM blocks. What I'm going to say to you, this is for somebody who has been using RPM successfully for a long period of time. Less is more. When you start and you're doing your daily plan, if you have a couple, 2, 3, that's a great place to start. Weekly plans, again, for the advanced user, 8 to 12 RPM blocks for a weekly plan. For you, as you're building your muscle, 3, 4, less is more. Start small so you can build momentum. Nothing builds success like building on success. And this is one of the things that I see people, they get themselves in, way over their head. They get frustrated because they didn't get 12 RPM blocks for their weekly plan, and they get frustrated and they just stop. Get started. If you had 1 RPM block for your daily plan, and 2 or 3 for your weekly plan, and 2 or 3 for a project plan, you would be doing fantastically. This is about gradually building momentum, exercising your RPM creation skills, and make it happen in your life. And then, as I said, projects, I would say 3 or 4 as you get started. And for the typical RPM block, anywhere from 4 to 6 actions. These are just to get you in the ball game, And let's talk about leverage. We talked about it as we went through creating RPM block, but this is one of the really important and valuable aspects of using RPM. When you are going to leverage something, the reason it's so powerful, RPM, the reason it's so powerful is because if you're leveraging something, you're going to share with them your RPM block. Or if it's a project, you share your whole RPM project plan with them. because it gets a level of buy-in that you can't get by just saying, hey, I need you to do this. People don't have a context. They don't know what the bigger result is. They don't know why it's important to you. And another huge advantage of leverage is that it allows you to help people get their life, on RPM. I know many of you are parents. And the truth is, I know many of you are employers, business owners. And my view, and this is not a negative view, my view is employees are like our children oftentimes. And our children are going to pay more attention to what we're doing than what we're talking about. And by sharing your RPM blocks, this is one of the ways to really build the muscle on your team, whether it's family members or friends or employees or coworkers. They get exposed to this and they're like, wow, this stuff really works. And even more importantly, the person who just shared this with me is actually doing it. They're not just talking the game. They're not just talking the game. And now, some pathways to power. Some pathways to power. You want to pay attention. Pay attention to the RPM blocks. For those of you that have been doing this for a while now, how many people have noticed that you are actually, there's some kinds of results that are similar, and even more often occurs, there's purpose, there's components of purpose statements that are very similar from RPM block to RPM block. You want to notice some of those things. You want to notice some of those things because you may create an RPM block for a week that is about your physical health. That RPM block may have been so great that you want to keep that, capture it, and reuse it with some minor tweaks so you're not having to start from scratch. The other pathway to power is words. Words. Start to pay attention. And I know for a fact, for those of you who've been going through all 6 of these sessions, you have built some muscles about using more emotionally juicy words. And as I've shared along the way, this is totally personal. Words for you that are powerful and emotionally charged might not be for somebody else. Start to make a list of words that are emotionally charged for you, that get your blood flowing, that cause you to be excited. Whatever those words are, it's a personal thing. Start to capture those words. And you want to make sure that you share your RPMs with people that are important to you. We already talked about when you're leveraging something to somebody to share it, but if you've got a significant other, even your kids, close friends, one, by making a public commitment to taking action, by making a public commitment to saying, hey, by the end of this month, I'm going to have gained 12 pounds of lightness. And here's the plan that I put together for it. And I would love if you notice me going off this plan, you say something to me, that you support me, that you love on me and acknowledge my successes, and also help me realize if I'm not following through the way I want to follow through. And I would encourage you, for those closest to you, if you've got a significant other, your closest family, your closest friends, sharing your life purpose, sharing your driving force, sharing your categories of improvement. One, it's a great way to build that muscle of going public, because when we go public, it sits in a different part of our being. And if you select the people you share it with carefully, people that are encouraging, people that are going to notice the things that you're doing well, people that are going to also, when appropriate, call you out if you're not following through, it can really build powerful momentum for you in your life. Share it with people that are most important to you. And then last but not least, at the end of every day, look for what was great and what you can be grateful for. Look for what was great and what you can be grateful for. And ask yourself some great questions like, how did I add value today in my own life and for the lives of others? You get what you focus on. Train your mind to pay attention to the things that are most important to you and to celebrate your greatness and to celebrate your successes. Yeah, okay, you celebrate your success right now. Well, we're going to do a super quick high-level review of everything we've covered today and really for the entire 6 sessions. 1, RPM is emotional. You want to do your RPM planning from a fully associated place, seeing yourself having accomplished the things that you set out to, that you want to accomplish, and creating your RPM blocks in that way. It's a system of thinking that consists of 3 questions. What's the result, specific result that I want to accomplish? Why is it a must for me? And what are the actions that I'm going to take? And as you hear me going through this, acknowledge to yourself, man, I understand this stuff way better than I thought I did. Acknowledge your understanding because you are understanding this at a level I'm betting many of you haven't fully embraced yet. Number 3, remember, it's a top-down system, starting with your driving force, what Stephen Covey used to refer to as your true north. What are you about? Who are you at your core? Who are you when you show up at your best? What's your ultimate vision for yourself? What's your ultimate purpose? Number 4 is the importance of language. The importance of language, using language emotionally to serve you and to take your life to the next level. Number 5 is the importance of the triad. That recipe to create any emotional state that you've ever created or that anybody else has created. And you created, even if this was your first session, you started to work on the best self triad, your ultimate you triad, whatever you want to call it. State really is everything. And when you exercise that emotional triad, it will make everything easier. It'll make your RPM planning easier. It'll make your relationships better. It will make your business better. Everything of your life will be better as you use state to your advantage. Number 6 are the 5 master steps of planning. You know it. And the 5th one is to celebrate. Remember, it's so important. So important. You must celebrate your success. Train your mind to watch for your successes. Number 7 is the weekly planning process. Get it on your calendar. It's 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe the first few times you do it, it maybe goes slightly over an hour. And select a time that works best for you. A time that works best for you. For many people, Tony suggests Friday afternoon. Tony actually does it on Sunday morning, Sunday midday. For him, that way, Sunday afternoon and evening, he can focus on his family. He can focus on his family, knowing that his coming week is all planned and he's ready to rock and roll come Monday morning. And then last but not least, number 8, projects. And you learned projects in no time flat today because you're an expert at RPM, and projects are just a series of RPM blocks that have been put together, all focused on one bigger result. Well, we're going to give you one last assignment. We're going to give you one last assignment, and then we're going to acknowledge some people. We're going to do a little closed eye process, and we are going to send you on your way, perhaps feeling better than you've ever felt in your life. So your assignment, number one, embrace RPM thinking. This is on page 25 of your workbook. Again, you don't need your workbook, but it's all there. Embrace RPM thinking. Always be thinking of what's the result I'm after? Why is this important to me? And what are the actions I need to do to accomplish it? And create RPM blocks. And as you saw today, and as you've seen in other sessions, that if you've been part of the other sessions, you can do it on the back of an envelope. Keep it easy, people. Keep it easy. Number two, create more magnificent sevens for your categories of improvement. Create more magnificent sevens for your categories of improvement. These are living documents. You're going to continue to add to these. Maybe you've got all your categories completed and your magnificent sevens are all done. As you use them, you're going to think of, oh man, I should add this to my ultimate result, my ultimate vision for this part of my life. Oh, this is some real juice that I can capture for my ultimate purpose, for your roles and for your 3 to Thrive. It's a living document. Add to it as you go. Remember to use, number 3, your ultimate triad. Exercise it. Exercise it multiple times a day. Multiple times a day for just 60 seconds, because you're building these emotional muscles. You're building these emotional muscles. Number 4, select a bigger result that you're committed to achieving and create an RPM project. Create an RPM project. And I've added one here, and that is, you want to make sure to notice how great you're doing. Notice how great you're doing. Focus on celebrating your success. Focus on celebrating your success. Thank you. You know, this has been a labor of love. I'm hopeful that you can tell that I really enjoy RPM. It's a powerful, powerful tool. And I want to acknowledge some people. The list is so long. I'm always hesitant to do this because invariably I am going to forget somebody. You know who you are. And here are the people that I would like to make sure to acknowledge. One is Pam Hendrickson, who is the person who, was the brain behind really RPM back 20 or 30 years when Tony first created it, and who was also similarly a labor of love. We could not have done this training without you. She created the workbooks. She created the drafts of the slides, and was just unbelievable. This training would not have happened without her. We've got the studio team. Yeah, let's give it, but let's save our applause. We'll give the applause at the very end because I want to get you out of here on time. We've got our studio team. There's a whole bunch of people that I should mention, but I'm just going to mention 2 of the key players, but there's a lot of people that have made a huge difference. Matt Murphy and Luke Lay in our studio in Florida that have helped broadcast this all around the world. Mike Pandamarabi is someone who helped us with the first couple of sessions. I want to thank him. He got us off the ground and got our first few sessions going. Jordan Phipps, the inner circle manager, part of the marketing team, really the person who is shepherding the inner circle forward and making sure that you guys are always getting amazing content. We've got the design team, and there's a whole bunch of people on the design team. We've got Britt Dowell, we've got Sarah Grant, we've got Maddie Henley, and I'm sure there's others because Pam cranks out these slides and has been keeping them on their toes. And they are not just focused on handling the RPM training. They've got like 7,000 different projects that they're working on. And then Julie Keywell, who assisted with one of the RPM sessions, and Julie and Bryn Whitman and Vicki St. George were all part of the team that take care of the trainers and senior leaders. I could not have done this without their support and picking up the slack to make sure that things were taken care of in the trainer and senior leader family. We've got mentor trainers from the coaching department who've been moderators, answering your questions in the chat box. Thank you to them for their commitment. The trainers and the senior leaders who stepped in at various points along the way to help answer questions. Brenda Schinke, who was my on-site support in the middle of no place, trying to make sure that the internet worked. And Catalina Patain, Brenda's actually the head of coach development for the coaching department. She made sure that the mentors were answering questions. Catalina Patain, who was keeping track of statistics. We got and Diane Sete and Aruza, dear friend of mine. She is the company's chief development officer. She is the brains behind most everything that I have any involvement in. I thank God for her every day. She's an amazing human being and an unbelievable asset to the company in general, but really help continue to drive this RPM training forward and give it the resources that it deserved and needed. And then, of course, Tony and Sage. Tony created this system nearly 30 years ago. It's his passion that is the source of my passion, and hopefully now the source of your passion. And last but not least, kudos and congratulations and thanks to every single one of you as you've gone through this training. You have made this training what it is. To see your stories on the Facebook groups, to see your questions, to see your successes. You guys have taken this and really implemented and build some powerful RPM muscles that are going to serve you and help you stay focused on a life of fulfillment going forward. All right, we've just got a couple of minutes left. We're going to do a quick closed eye process. So go ahead. In fact, if you're able, go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up. And close your eyes. And close your eyes. And look back to the beginning of this RPM training. 6 months ago, for those of you that started with the first session, look back to the first session when you started to understand RPM. And remember that crazy guy that in the first few sessions was talking so fast and so loud that people said, "Stop yelling at me." But it was just his excitement. It was just his excitement and his desire to share this powerful tool, this tool to allow you to focus on what's most important for you, to take control of your life, and to live a life of ultimate fulfillment. And see yourself as you went through the training. And if you weren't there for the first one, see whenever it was you joined, even if it was just today. And think for a moment all the things you learned. All the things you learned. The system of thinking. The 3 basic questions to RPM. The importance of language. Feel how proud you are. Feel how proud you are of all that you've learned and all that you've accomplished. And with all this knowledge about RPM, results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action planning, see yourself a month from now as you consistently begin to apply this in your life and see and hear and feel and know how much better your life is, how much more fulfilled you feel, how you feel like you're in control. You're in control of your life. Feel how amazing that feels. And now see yourself 3 months from now. Your understanding of RPM just continues to go to a higher level. And feel the fulfillment. Feel the joy having taken control of your life, having finally focused yourself on what's most important to you rather than other people's priorities. And feel the pride and the joy and the love and the caring and the compassion and the do whatever it takes and the unstoppableness and anything and everything else that you need to take your life to the next level. Feel that momentum. It's building. You can't even control it. You don't even understand it, and you don't want to understand it. You're just riding the wave. See yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, every day, implementing this at an even higher level, celebrating your successes every single day, creating RPM projects, sharing your driving force and your ultimate vision, your ultimate purpose with those closest to you. You have created a following. Yes, you have created a following of people because you shared this knowledge, this system of thinking with people that are most important to you. And the momentum keeps building. The fulfillment you feel in your life is at an unbelievably different level. And feel the joy and the pride and the love and the caring and the compassion and the unstoppableness and the do whatever it takes. Anything and everything else that you could possibly ever want or need. And now, that momentum is taken over. RPM thinking is just a part of who you are. You create RPM blocks flawlessly. You do your weekly planning regularly. You've done your annual planning, your annual review. You've done your quarterly reviews, and now see yourself 2-3 years down the road. That momentum building, the excitement, the joy, the thanksgiving, the pride, the do whatever it takes, the feelings of fulfillment that you at one point in your life only dreamed were possible. You have done it. You have done it because you took action. And yes, maybe you ran into some roadblocks and things didn't work exactly the way you wanted them all the time. And you learned from those challenges. You learned from those roadblocks, but you broke through. And see yourself 5 years in the future and look back in time of all the things that you've accomplished. It's unbelievable. All because you made this commitment to yourself to use this thing called RPM that when you first heard it, you didn't even know what it was. And on the count of three, we're going to celebrate your greatness. We're going to celebrate your greatness, having implemented this in your life, having taken your understanding of RPM off the chain, off the charts. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, celebrate your greatness. Celebrate your greatness. You got this. You did it. You did it. Oh, yes. I want to leave you with a quote from Victor Hugo. The future has several names. For the weak, it is impossible. For the faint-hearted, it is unknown. But for the valiant, and that's you, it is ideal. Congratulations on completing these 6 sessions of RPM training. You own this. You've got this. Your life will be changed forever. Your life will be changed forever. I love you. I thank you. I wish you the best. I look forward to seeing you at an event in the future, and take RPM to the next level, because there's always another level. One last time, let's celebrate your greatness. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Your greatness. Oh, yes. Love you. Thank you. See you in the future. Bye.